Hello, hello. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is November 6th, 2025. We are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and local ships. What? What? I combined two words. How about you share? How about you subscribe? How about you tap the notification bell? That would be wonderful, and I'm very excited. Before we get into the socialists destroying the country and taking down the greatest city in the history of the world, Copal just won a second award this week. That's right, we are 2 for 2 in awards. Tequila and Spirits Magazine, their official tasting awards 2025, Copal just won exceptional 95 points. That is for in their Reposado category. Very excited. And of course, just a couple days ago, we won Sunset Magazine's International Spirits competition for Best Reposado. I told you we were making an exquisite, light, fragrant, lovely, spectacular, wonderful, amazing, seriously good. That's all the adjectives I have. Tequila and every bottle. As you know, the artwork is unique on every single bottle. We AI printed it pretty cool. You can go to drinkcopal.com if you want to check it out. And trust me, it will help for Thanksgiving, in case, especially if you have a socialist in the family. So obviously that's what we're starting with. A lot of Zohran Mamdani stuff. Or I'm starting to think maybe I should be calling him Zohran Mamdani. I'm just going to keep changing the name. Moron, Zamplami, like just a series of different names. Then we'll talk a little bit about what Trump's reaction to all of this is. And as I pointed out yesterday, does Trump need to make a little moves? You know, I know everybody wants to blow everything out of proportion. Oh my God, New York went blue. And yes, it didn't really go blue. It went red, green, Marxist, communist, jihadist. But it's nothing insane here. It wasn't a red state, like a hardcore red city or state that flipped. But people read into it as they do, and Trump is particularly good when it comes to changing the narrative. So does he need to button things up a little bit? Does he need to do something that'll change the equation a little bit before the midterms? Well, he probably does. But let's dive into some of the fallout post the Moron Mamdani election in New York City. Well, first off, I thought this was just an absolute gem. This is a man who has told you that everything will be for free. The buses will be for free and childcare will be for free, and he will freeze rents and there will be a free lunch and I assume free hand jobs and all of the stuff. But it turns out that when you say something is for free, that's a lie. It just means someone else has to pay for it. So this is just a beautiful chef's kiss, perfect example of that. Here is a video that Zohran Moron put out yesterday, and he wants your money for his transition team because nothing is free.
On January 1st, I will be your mayor. New Year's Day and a new era for this city. Oh, and one more thing. Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again. This transition requires staff, research, and an infrastructure that can meet this moment. And it will be made possible by the people who built and believe in this movement. So I hope you'll make a donation at transition2025.com. Now let's get to work.
All right, first off, if you send money to that website, you're a fucking idiot. That's number one. Number two, if you need the staff and the infrastructure and all the stuff that they're gonna build this, and it's really wonderful, why can't you do it for free? Why don't you have all these wonderful people just donating their time and their resources and everything else? Or is it that every single thing that you say, the whole premise of your existence, is an abject lie and completely antithetical to truth? I think that might have a little something to do with it. So yeah, one more thing with that smile, everything about him, it's so gross. One more thing. I do need your money because things aren't really free. I'm going to take a dump. Here's Donald Trump on Zohran Mamdani.
You know, I'm so torn because I would like to see the new mayor do well because I love New York. I really love New York. When I left New York for Washington, New York was doing really well, but there were some bad signs. The bad sign was a guy named de Blasio. So the signs of de Blasio, that was the beginning, and it was bad. This one, we're going to, look, for 1,000 years, communism has not worked. Communism, or the concept of communism, has not worked. I tend to doubt it's going to work this time.
Did you see his victory speech?
It's literally never worked. Yeah, I thought it was a very angry speech, certainly angry toward me, and I think he should be very nice to me. You know, I'm the one that sort of has to approve a lot of things coming to him, so he's off to a bad start.
That's a little of everything with Trump right there. First off, 100%, I believe he loves New York. he built his family, his fortune, his fame, all of those things as he was literally building the skyline of New York, right? At one time in the 80s and 90s, there was more Trump buildings than anything else, right? Less now for a series of reasons. But I do believe he loves that city. And I know for sure his kids love that city. And despite everything, as he points out, he doesn't want it to collapse. That's one part. The other part, of course, is that the speech, yes, it was very interesting to watch that acceptance speech because the speech was seriously angry and much more guttural and jihad-like than the soft lens. Smiley, I'm smiling, so, I'm a good guy, even though I'm going to behead all of you people. So yes, it was an extremely angry speech. And yes, moron Mamdani might want to be a little nicer to Trump because Trump will control some level of the purse strings as it pertains to federal money that can go into New York. And we're going to have more on this in just a minute. We know that this mass exodus is coming. So we know it's about 1 million people that have left New York overall since COVID, right? And now it looks like around 700,000 people are going to leave New York City. So the very people that he wants to fund this thing via their taxes, they are fleeing. So it might be a doubly important reason not to go after the president because you want money to make stuff free. Here's a bit more on here's a bit more of Trump on Zohran Mamdani's speech.
At one point, how do you respond to that? Does that affect anything you're going to do?
It's a very dangerous statement for him to make, actually. And, you talk about danger. I think it's a very dangerous statement for him to make. He has to be a little bit respectful of Washington because if he's not, he doesn't have a chance of succeeding. And I want to make him succeed. I want to make the city succeed. I don't want to make him succeed. I want to make the city succeed, and we'll see what happens.
Did you see reaching out to him?
I would say he should reach out to us.
Yeah, I mean, he probably should, but he's going to try to make his entire career and sham of a personality about being the anti-Trump. Also, again, you hear the gutturalness and the anger now in his speeches because masks will slowly come off and all these queers for Palestine will suddenly realize that it was actually a wolf and not a sheep and all of those things. But the line to get to any of us, you'll have to go through all of us. Well, who do you think Donald Trump's trying to get that lives in New York City? You know who he's trying to get? The illegals who are not legal. So if you are implying that you are going to stop Donald Trump from doing what he was duly elected to do, well, then we're going to have a legal problem. We'll have more on that in just a second. But Ben Shapiro, for some strange reason, my friend Ben Shapiro went on CNN. I don't know. I guess he got sick of having people watch him. And he was like, let me just go somewhere where no one's watching. He went on CNN, and here he is with a guy, I think he's a Democratic strategist, this guy, Bakari Sellers, implies that all the fear around Zohran Mamdani is it's just fear-mongering, it's just boogeyman nonsense, and Ben lays it out, as he is wont to do.
They do extremely well with picking a boogeyman out, and that is what they're doing. I mean, we cannot fall for that. I mean, they're simply otherizing Mamdani. They're saying whatever they want to say.
And it's not working, though. That's the thing. Like, the more they attack him, the more...
it's like...
So then the question becomes why they're focusing on Mamdani. And I think the answer is because of Mamdani's own words. If you watched his victory speech last night, he used one line in particular that sort of leapt out and left off the screen when he said that there is literally no problem. This was his line. There is no problem too big for government to solve and no matter too small for government to care about. I mean, that's terrifying. What totalitarians would say. So, saying that President Trump is somehow going overboard when he has campaigned as this, when the Democratic Socialists of America, which is a base from which he springs and to whom he answers in many ways, is openly socialist. He's not talking about it. He said on this network he hates capitalism. He said that on this network.
Yeah, good job, Ben. So Bakari basically says your guys are making a boogeyman out of him, and Ben lays it out. Oh, actually, he's saying the most totalitarian shit you could possibly imagine. We played you the clip yesterday. I mean, what does Ronald Reagan say? The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm here from the government, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. And he takes the complete opposite approach on that. So there's no boogeyman around this, right? He's telling you, I want to control the means of production. That's communism, Marxism 101. I want to control the grocery stores. I want everything to be free. I want more of their money. He's trying to institute class warfare, on top of won't condemn, calls for genocide and all the rest of it, river to the sea, and all just the globalizing intifada, all of the stuff. So there's nothing boogeyman about any of this. This guy is basically the worst of the worst, and they have chosen that in New York City. That's not boogeyman. That's just laying out what actually is true. But now we will start to see, as he pieces together his administration, how radical it actually will become, and how many key people who have been in positions of power, who are competent in New York City, get the high hell out of there. Listen to this from the New York Post. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani has picked former Federal Trade Commission Chair Lina Khan to serve as co-chair of his transition team, sparking concerns among New York City tech executives. Khan, a 36-year-old Democrat who brought major cases against Meta and Amazon while running the FTC from 2021 to 2025, surprised some onlookers on Wednesday when she appeared alongside Mamdani at his first post-election press conference. Khan's involvement immediately raised alarms with big tech and Wall Street honchos, many of whom have long bristled at her aggressive enforcement tactics, tough merger reviews, and anti-monopoly crackdowns while she headed the FTC. So look, I am not going to sit here and tell you I know everything about this woman, but let's just say, as someone that was running the FTC under Joe Biden, do you think she is friendly to business? That is not a huge defense of all the things that big tech has done and everything else. But we will slowly see him bring in people across the board who are wildly against business, and then businesses will leave. One of his other plans, of course, is to increase the corporate tax rate so it matches Jersey's, which I think is the highest in the entire country. So every single thing that he is doing is designed to destroy. It's not just destroy capitalism, it's designed to actually destroy the human spirit. Because if you cannot create as a human, you will just become a slave to the system, and that's exactly what he wants. Here's a bit more from Brent Shear, who's the editor-in-chief at the Daily Wire, on this announcement. Zohran Mamdani just announced Lina Khan is one of the people leading his transition team. She's another socialist who worked in the Biden administration, who actually improperly billed the taxpayers for luxury travel. Classic leftist. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that somebody that wants all of your money would also be taking it and spending it on foie gras or fancy planes or filet mignon and fancy dresses or God knows what she did, because it's socialism and Marxism for you, not for them. That's how it works. But as Ben pointed out, the most dangerous thing that he is doing here, basically, he's saying that the government will do everything, but he's also going to decide what laws the government will and will not enforce. And the most dangerous one that I think will be the thing that I think will be the crux of the disaster, the impending disaster, is that he is saying New York City will continue to be a sanctuary state, and now he is saying they will fight ICE agents who are just doing their job, which is exactly what Donald Trump is doing. Here's that line.
My message to ICE agents and to everyone across this city is that everyone will be held to the same standard of the law. If you violate the law, you must be held accountable. And there is sadly a sense that is growing across this country that certain people are allowed to violate that law, whether they be the president or whether they be the agents themselves. And what New Yorkers are looking for is an era of consistency, an era of clarity, an era of conviction. And that is what we will deliver to them.
Guys, I'm sorry. He is just evil. There is no way. Every single thing that comes out of his forked tongue is a lie or a confusion or a misdirection. That's what he is doing. Everyone will be held to the same standard of the law. Well, what is it that ICE is doing? ICE is going in to places that will not clean themselves up, right? That will not get rid of the illegals who are illegal, not legal. That's how the word came together, right? So you guys are the ones that are breaking the law. Sanctuary cities in and of themselves should be criminal, okay? So what are you saying? What are you saying? Everyone will be held to the same standard of law except the people here who came illegally? We're going to protect them? That's what he's saying. So he's trying, that was basically a very thinly veiled threat against ICE agents. But Zohran, you would be the one breaking New York law. Here's New York Penal Law 195.05. A person is guilty of obstructing governmental administration in the second degree when he intentionally obstructs, impairs, or perverts the administration of law or other governmental function, or prevents or attempts to prevent a public servant from performing an official function by means of intimidation, physical force or interference, or by means of any independent unlawful act. That is what he just laid out right there, because if that wasn't intimidation, I don't know what was, because he basically just said, ICE, if you come here, you got to get through all of us. So what else could that mean? So before he's even sworn in, he's at least breaking the intent of New York state penal law, and there's undoubtedly federal law that he's breaking. Will anyone do anything about it? No, because that's kind of how it works. A little bit more, because I mentioned it's not just that he's going to bring in terrible anti-capitalist, anti-American, pro-jihad people, which that's all very obvious. It's that good people are going to be purged. I have a friend who was in the NYPD. He is now wisely retired. And he told me that the amount of people who are leaving right now is absolutely incredible, that people are just all one way or another figuring out how to get out, early retirement, transferring, whatever it is. But it's not just NYPD. Listen to this from the New York Post. Fire Commissioner, this is New York City Fire Commissioner Robert Tucker, handed in his resignation Wednesday morning, just one day after Zohran Mamdani was elected mayor, the Post has learned. Tucker, a proud Jewish philanthropist and businessman, informed Mayor Eric Adams that he would step down from the role he has held for just over 12 months on December 19th, according to sources. The FDNY boss was concerned about Mamdani's anti-Israel hostility, with a source noting that Tucker's support of the Jewish state does not align with the new mayor. Well, in that the guy would love to create a genocide of the Jews. And by the way, it's not going to go that well for you Jews in New York either, but definitely he'd love to genocide the 8 or 10 million that are over there in Israel. So good for this Tucker guy. Get the hell out. I assume you'll have a fruitful life, likely in Florida soon enough. But again, this is just a competent person who is a civil servant who has just had it with the BS. And speaking of had it with the BS, listen to this from ABC7 in New York. Close to 1 million people are preparing to leave New York City if Democratic Socialist candidate Zohran Mamdani becomes mayor, a new poll shows. A poll that was conducted by JL Partners for the Daily Mail found that 9% of New York City residents would definitely leave the city if he wins. 9% is roughly 765,000 of New York residents. More polling shows that 2.12 million residents of New York City would consider leaving if Mamdani has an election victory. So look, polls are polls. We will now see. The proof will be in the pudding over the next couple of weeks. We will see how many people actually move. It's one thing to be polled and say, yeah, if he wins, I'm leaving. But let's say the poll was around 9% of the city. Let's say it ends up being about 3% of the city. That's still a couple 100,000 people. And remember, again, those are the people who are likely the high earners, who are functional citizens, who are productive and doing things, who Mamdani deeply wants to suck off. I actually didn't even mean it that way, but he wants to endlessly suck off their teat so he can have their cash to do what he wants with it. And then what will happen as they disappear, he's gonna have to suck off some other people who have a little bit less. There's a lot of sucking with very little reward here. But where will the reward be? Well, it'll be right here in the state of Florida. Here's a Palm Beach real estate agent by the name of Courtney Pulitzer, and she's shocked because the phones are a-ringing.
Okay, y'all, I'm not gonna lie, I did not think exactly this was gonna happen. I thought this guy was gonna win in New York City. I thought that our market was gonna pick up, but I didn't think it was going to happen like the next morning. I'm like, okay, my sellers like settle down. I don't think they're just going to come, racing down and, from New York City, but it's, I don't know. I don't even know what time it is, 3 or 4 o'clock. I've literally been on the phone since 7 a.m., nonstop back-to-back calls. I had showings scheduled for listings that haven't had showings in a month. And yeah, I was wrong because it literally turned on like a light bulb, literally blew off like a firecracker, and the post-socialist New York City political market is here on our shores in Palm Beach. Welcome.
Courtney, I never heard of you before this morning, but I'd like to congratulate you on your newfound success, and that's going to be just great. And Palm Beach is going to get a ton of those people, and many more will come a little more south down to Miami, and they're going to go all over the state. And again, hopefully they will vote right. I think a lot of them will, because it's kind of like when people fled during COVID. They really do know what they are fleeing at this point. And I can tell you as a now almost 4-year Miamian, that the people that I meet that are the transplants end up being the craziest red people because they have PTSD from living in the blue dystopian nightmares. So congratulations, Zohran. You are purging all the good people, and all of those 22-year-old girls who are so excited for free buses and socialism, and they're going to get on the free bus, and there's a guy masturbating over there, and there's a homeless guy taking a dump over there, but we're doing it in the name of goodness because we're nice and tolerant. Eventually, when you realize there's no money to fix that bus anymore, it's more annoying when you're on a bus and there's a guy taking a dump over there and a guy masturbating over there, and then the bus also breaks down. It's like if the bus is moving, you can deal with it. But when it's just a bit much. So I was thrilled to see this yesterday. This is from Polymarket. I think Ron's listening to me. Breaking: Ron DeSantis says Florida may impose a tariff on people fleeing New York City. I have no idea what the ramifications are of that and what the legal loopholes you'd have to jump through and everything else. We thought maybe we had the governor in studio tomorrow, but we're probably going to push it to next week. But I would love to find out more on that. And I think that is absolutely fair. As a matter of fact, I'll even go this far. Governor DeSantis, if you can figure out a way to legally do it, and the fund, whatever the fund is that you'd raise for. So let's say you take, I don't know, it's 1% of somebody's income for a year. And then you have to put that towards something, whether it's infrastructure or something. Like figure out what a really cool fund is, the Florida Freedom Fund, something like that. I will put in. I will, even though I've been here for 4 years, I will match it as if I have just come here. How about that? And you know what? There's a reason I'll match it, and I would gladly match it, and that is because I know what it is like to live in a communist shithole of California, and I know what it is like to live in a free, flourishing state like the free state of Florida, and that's why I was thrilled when Joseph pulled this clip up. This is just 10 seconds. This is from December 17th, 2021. This is when we landed. We were in the plane, and I had a friend. It was my first time ever on a private plane, but my friend lent me his private planes because we didn't want to put Clyde, our dog, underneath for the journey from Cali to Florida. And this was us landing in the free state of Florida.
20, 10, 5. Yeah,
and I can tell you guys, I literally, everyone says literally when they don't mean it, but I mean it literally. I literally felt something lift off my chest when I landed because I knew I was coming to a free state where the things that I care about and my values and all of the things that I fight for would be emboldened rather than endlessly trying to dig myself out of a ditch as a whole bunch of people are pouring more dirt into it. And that's what it became in California. That is what New York is going to become. So New York's loss will be Florida's gain. It will be Texas's gain and a couple other places. Good luck with all of that. But whether you live in New York or Florida, you will have access to good, healthy chips, much like masa chips. Have you ever looked at the nutrition label on a regular bag of chips? It's basically a chemical cocktail filled with seed oil, MSG, artificial dyes, and vague natural flavors. That's why I love masa. Masa chips are made with just 3 ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. That's it. No seed oils, no mystery chemicals, just real food. And they're not just clean, they taste incredible. Snacking on masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. You actually feel satisfied, light, and energized because they're made from real food. And if you love masa, you've got to try Vandy Crisps. Their sister company, Vandy, makes the most delicious 3-ingredient potato chips I've ever had. Ready to give masa or Vandy a try? Use code Rubin for 25% off your first order at masachips.com or vandycrisps.com. You can also click the link in the video description or scan the QR code on the screen to claim this delicious offer. Okay, so look, we could obviously spend the rest of the hour just doing endless Mamdani's awful, the communists are here, the Marxists and the jihadists are working together to destroy democracy. It would all be true, and we could make all the jokes and all that stuff. But as I pointed out yesterday, there is an interesting moment here. I am on board, actually, what Scott Jennings said on CNN on election night, which is that we can't look at this too much as a bellwether because New York is blue. Jersey largely is blue. Virginia, because of its proximity to D.C. and all of the people who make their money in the swamp, is largely blue, right? And they occasionally flip a little bit. A lot of people really thought that Jersey had a chance, and then the gubernatorial election was just an absolute disaster, which again will be Florida's gain because some of the people, had Florida gone red, that would have moved out of New York to Jersey will all now come down here. But that aside for a second, I don't think we should be screaming, oh my God, this is it, socialism and communism and jihadism are going to take over the country yet. But what I do think is that now there is a moment. Trump now has 1 year to the midterms, and you know what happens every year during midterms, which is that the incumbent president's party almost always gets crushed. Can we get some numbers on that? Like in the last 100 years, how many times does the incumbent president's party gets crushed in the midterms? It's almost completely airtight on that. So Trump does have to figure out how to make some adjustments here, if for no other reason, just to change the narrative, right? If the mainstream narrative is going to be, oh my God, socialism and Marxism and everything being free and a little bit of jihad, it's all so great. Well, then Trump is going to have to figure out how to counter that. And you could see by this speech that Trump gave yesterday that he already is thinking about how to get wins and how to get them quickly. Here he is talking about the filibuster.
It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it. And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. There'll be no legislation passed for 3.25. We have 3.25 years, so that's a long time. But when they can't do an extension, and John, I think they've done an extension every single time they've ever been asked forever. This is the first time they haven't done an extension. Extensions are supposed to be easy, but if they won't do an extension, they won't do any bill, even a simple bill. And we should do our own bills. We should get out. We should do our own bills. We should open up. We should start tonight with the country's open. Congratulations. Then we should pass voter ID. We should pass no mail-in voting. We should pass all the things that we want to pass, make our elections secure and safe, because California is a disaster. Many of the states are disasters.
Okay, he's hitting a couple things which I'll address, but we just checked. So the incumbent president's party has lost 13 out of the last 19 midterms. So Trump knows that it is a major uphill battle, even when you're doing pretty well. People just like change. It's just part of the human condition. And they're just like, oh, everything's fine. Let me fuck with it. Like, that's just kind of how it is. But let's talk about the filibuster specifically. And I thought we should probably just define what the filibuster is clearly for everyone. So this is from Axios. What is the filibuster? The filibuster is a loosely defined term to describe a Senate tradition allowing unlimited debate to prevent or delay a bill, resolution, amendment, or question. The Senate can end the debate on a bill with a 3/5 majority vote, or 60 out of 100 senators. That's often a rarity given how thin the margins are between the two parties. Right now, Republicans hold 53 seats. Ending the filibuster would allow a simple majority of senators or the vice president, if there's a tie, to pass bills without the unending debate. So this is why you hear, Cory Booker speak for 19 hours without urinating, or another 16 hours without pooping, or when they go on these long speeches. Look, this is one of those things that you want to play it, as I always try to do, as evenly down. If the Democrats were trying to end the filibuster, which the Democrats did try to do, they called it the nuclear option. I think it was Harry Reid about 10 years ago, because they had a slim majority. So they're like, we will end the filibuster. That way we can get anything we want done. I was pissed about it then, and that's when I was a progressive. That's when I was a lefty. Because once you are in power, if you start changing the rules, well, eventually we know you won't be in power and they're going to be used against you. So how do we analyze this fairly? We are now up against something that is out of control. Again, I'm not trying to make everyone crazy about the results of the election. It's bad for sure. But again, it wasn't red states that were flipped. But Trump kind of is right here. If we don't occasionally use power, even if we're wary of it when we have it, then what are we going to do in the face of people that seemingly only want power, and that we know that they would gladly do whatever they can? Now, I know that kind of feels like, all right, well, then we'll just go down the road to hell together. So I'm a little uneasy with it, let's say. But here is Trump explaining that if the Republicans don't end the filibuster, well, listen to what they might, hint, will do when they get power.
They're going to pack the court. They're going to make D.C. a state, and they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. So now they pick up 2 states. They pick up 4 senators, okay? You think you have problems? They're going to do all of the things. They're going to pick up electoral votes. It's going to be a very, very bad situation. And it's done. It's done. As soon as they attain power. Now, if we do what I'm saying, they'll most likely never attain power, because we will have passed every single thing that you can imagine that it's good and all good for the country. And there'll be no reason to. If we don't do that, people will say they're not doing much and they're in power.
Okay, so I just laid out the kind of philosophical reason that you should be careful about. It's sort of like be careful what you wish for, right? Like if you have the power to do something, do you necessarily do it knowing that they might do it on the other side when they have the power? That's a philosophical notion, right? We could have a debate about that. But is what Trump just said there totally true? If the Democrats had the majority and had the simple ability to pack the court, would they do it? The answer obviously is yes, because they've all been saying it for years. Everybody from Bernie to Elizabeth Warren to AOC, across the board, they've all been saying they would do it. So they would pack the court, fundamentally alter the nature of the Supreme Court. We know that. Would they make D.C. a state? Yes. They've been repeatedly saying it, thus getting 2 more Senate votes, which then emboldens them a little bit more. Would they make Puerto Rico a state? They've repeatedly said that too. Now you've got 4 more Senate seats. And God knows what else they would do. So his point is, if in this little brief moment where we have a window, we don't do anything, then it could get much worse. I really don't know how to argue around that. Here is Byron Donalds, congressman from Southwest Florida, who is a gubernatorial, will potentially be, well, he is running for governor, but he's a candidate for governor when DeSantis leaves. Here he is talking to CNN's Laura Coates, talking about why the filibuster is destructive, but perhaps the Republicans got to do something here.
The fallacy, though, Congressman, you guys are in control. You have the House, you've got the Senate, and you have the White House. Don't you have more than enough power?
No, we don't. And the reason why is because of the Senate filibuster. Now, I'm on the record. I think the Senate filibuster is actually destructive of real compromise.
You want to get rid of it?
I believe we should get rid of it, because what it actually stops Republicans and Democrats in the Senate from doing is finding solutions where both parties could work together in order to get majority votes. What happens now is you have the Democrats who were hiding behind the filibuster saying that they're not getting their way. They've argued for 4 different things. At one point, they were arguing for funding for NPR. Then they were arguing to undo some DOGE cuts. Then they started arguing over Obamacare premiums. Premiums, by the way, the Democrats put in place when they were in charge of the trifecta. They did not make them permanent. They made them sunset this year on purpose.
Okay, so he's doing a nice job of laying out the Democrat hypocrisy around it. And I honestly leave this one to you guys, the audience, to think about and maybe comment, and maybe we'll read some comments in the postgame show today or on the show tomorrow regarding this. There's the philosophical piece of it, right? There's the sort of moral or ethical or whatever you want to call it piece about what do you do when you're in power, knowing that when you won't always be in power, although the Democrats would love to always be in power. And then there's just sort of the real politic piece, which is Trump could get a bunch of good stuff done in the face of a Democrat Party that is wildly out of control and now deeply, deeply emboldened because of the results from 2 days ago. And he has an opportunity to do that. And should he wield that power? You know, there's some analogous thing to the ring, right? The ring had a lot of power. Do you hold the ring? Do you give the ring away? Do you find a little guy who's sort of like a weird kind of crotchety midget and give it to him and then see what happens? Or I don't know, the little guys with the little feet. There's something I think for those of you that, I like robots. Anyway, listen to this from Polymarket as for which way the House might go in 2026. Democrat Party, 71%. My God, that's scary. Republican Party, 30%. But again, that's kind of consistent with what we would expect right now. That's just sort of how it is. The president always pays the price in the midterms because no matter how much he does to make things better, whether it's clean up the border, whether it's get these trade deals to be better, get us out of these ridiculous international things that we're always putting the bill on, largely create peace in the Middle East, whatever it is, people are just like, I want more, and I want more from the other guy. Bill O'Reilly was on Chris Cuomo's show, and I thought he made a good point about how fast things change right now. And I've tried to illustrate this a little bit earlier, that so much is going to happen right now that it's a little hard to garner how much this election of 2 days ago will matter when we get to these elections next year.
This has nothing to do with the midterms, zero. And the reason is so many things are going to happen between now and this time next year. And it's going to be a completely different country than it is now. Now, I can't predict which way that's going to go.
Then how do you know it's going to be a completely different country?
Because there are so many things that have to be decided. There are too many undecideds. And you can start with the Supreme Court ruling on the tariffs. You can start on that. But that will give Trump then a free field to see if in the next 8 months the tariffs can kick in to bring prices down and to help people. That's what the midterms are all about. It's about economics here. It's not about China. It's not even about Putin. It's about that.
Okay, so if Bill is right that this is about economics, and let's put aside some of the identity politics and jihad stuff around Mamdani, if that ultimately these young people that aren't particularly bright and are confused about the issues and don't understand why socialism is bad and blah, 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 for whatever reason, if they think there's an economic problem, and yesterday we illustrated that there are problems, right? They're having trouble getting into the housing market. They feel like their dollar's not going as far. We now know there's plenty of evidence that a 30-year-old today will not have it as good as their parent when they were 30. That, as Scott Galloway pointed out, that kind of breaks down what the societal contract is, which is that your children will have it better than you do. So if O'Reilly is right about that, then Trump has to do some stuff quick. Now, it doesn't all happen overnight. Think about the 4 years that we were under between the endless amount of people that came into this country, the Inflation Reduction Act, which actually increased inflation, the backdrop of all of the COVID lunacy and the amount of money that was printed and people not going to work and staying home and all of those things. Like, I don't know how much Trump can fix at once. When I go to the grocery store right now, from what I can see, prices have come down a bit. Eggs have come down a bit. A pound of beef has come down a bit. Butter has gone down a bit. Gas prices definitely are down. But if that is not being seen across the country, or if that is not scaling in a way that's clicking in the mind of young people, and again, all the tariff stuff hasn't landed yet, right? So if that stuff isn't happening fast enough by the midterms, then Trump's got to do something. Again, it may not be fair. It may not be right. But if it's just the way people are feeling about shit, then he's going to have to address it. He will also have to address the fact that there's just a machine that will endlessly lie about him. And no matter what Mamdani, who now is the face of the Democrats, does, they will always make him look like the good guy. Here is Stephen Colbert, a man who, he's sort of dead man walking in that the show has been canceled already, but he's still getting that $20 million paycheck to put up jokes like this. That was funny? I might have missed the funny part. The coffee hasn't kicked in maybe. It's not just that it's not funny. Yes, okay, that's what the Statue of Liberty wants. The Statue of Liberty wanted legal immigration. This whole issue is about illegal immigration. And by the way, Stephen Colbert, who we just checked, you come from French and Irish background, which is just fine. The French, and particularly the Irish who came to America, and came through Ellis Island, they busted their asses and no one gave them anything, right? I mean, go watch, Gangs of New York. Go watch Gangs of New York and see what people gave the Irish, right? They didn't give the Irish anything. They didn't give the Italians anything. They didn't give the Jews or the Puerto Ricans or any of these people or the Greeks or anyone else. They didn't give them anything. But he can't make the distinction between legal and illegal. And by the way, when he's talking about all the immigrants, notice he didn't mention French or Irish, by the way. It's the Ugandan, this one, and because you're white, buddy. And by the way, you also make $20 million a year. I'm going to guess that Stephen Colbert does not live in New York City. He probably lives in Westchester or somewhere in the suburbs over there. But if you do live there, Mr. Colbert, even though you are feeding the lion right now, and you think, oh, if I feed the lion, he will be satiated enough not to bite my head off. What will happen one day when the revolution comes, and it always comes, is that they will rip you out of your bedroom. You will be in your J. Peterman pajamas, and they will pull you out of your bed, and they will slaughter you in the street because you make $20 million for years now. So you're probably worth around $100 million. Now, you're probably not a billionaire, but that'll shift around too. You know, usually when they hang people, when they do the public executions, they don't check the books exactly. They just ballpark it. Well, 100 mil, we'll count him as a billionaire. So you will be screwed. There's this, we're always trying to find lefty podcasters, and I really mean that. Like, I really am trying to engage when I can with a lefty podcaster who is not calling everybody racist or any of the nonsense. And there's virtually nobody. The right, because the right has been counterculture going against CNN, New York Times, blah, blah. The right has a huge, wide swath of people who are all over the place politically and culturally and everything else, but broadly fit on the right, for better or worse, right? And it's very hard to find podcasters on the left who aren't just like screeching lunatics. And I'm going to illustrate that right now. There's this woman, Jennifer Welch. We played a clip of hers on Friday. She's not particularly interesting or bright or anything else, but she's sort of the perfect example of the sort of, when we talk about like the kind of white liberal woman who's going to get us all killed. Here she is at the Mamdani. Every time I'm just going to do it different. Sorry, that's just how it's going to be. Unless I'm reading his name, I will read it correctly. Otherwise, it's Zohran Mamdani, whatever. But here she is at the Zohran Mamdani party, the election party, and she's with a couple Islamists. And here she is explaining that Americans actually have no culture, and she doesn't like white people, even though she's white.
It makes you, because I'm going to tell you something. If it was all white people here right now, it would be boring as shit. I've grown up in those circles. Everybody needs some spice and some color in their lives. Life's a lot better. That's the coolest thing about America. Americans have no culture except for multicultural.
Well said.
And we need to teach people how to embrace that. These crusty white people need to learn how to embrace it.
How absolutely disgusting. I can't wait, lady, till they put you in the burqa. Partly because I just don't want to look at you, but really because you will deserve it. You sit there talking to that guy who's a out and proud Hamas supporter. You talk to him, and then you've got the guy with the white hair who looks like a Batman villain. You can't make this shit up. And there she is. We are horrible, old white, crusty people have no culture. Oh, really? Italians have no culture? Have you ever seen Goodfellas? Italians have no culture, no food, no music. Irish, Greek, again, Jews. I know they don't count as white. We could do this all day long. These people have no culture. They have no music. What are you talking about? Who built Europe? And then who built America? But you're pathetic. You're just a pathetic leftist nothing. And they will put you in a beekeeper costume, and that's basically where you should be. Apparently, she's happily divorced from a white man. So she did marry a white man for some reason. But don't worry, lady, you will live as a dhimmi on your knees with some of those guys soon enough. I want to show you this clip. It's going to start with Bill Maher talking, but it's actually a clip from PragerU. They have a new correspondent over there. His name is Franklin Camargo, and he is from Venezuela. And here he is. You'll see, again, it's going to start with the Maher clip, but it's Franklin Camargo explaining why the left resents America.
Less than 1 in 4 Democrats under 30 say they're proud to be an American. 54% say they're embarrassed by it. Is America perfect? No, of course not. No country is. At an AOC Bernie Sanders rally in Idaho last month, someone threw a Palestinian flag over an American flag, and the crowd erupted in approval. What should have happened after that is one of the adults on stage should have told their young, loyal followers, this is not a symbol of freedom. This is.
Yes, the most beautiful symbol of freedom. When the people of Hong Kong stood up to China, they waved the American flag. Why? Because it's not just a beautiful flag. It is a symbol of hope and liberty. Today's divide in America, sadly, is not just about taxes or policy. The left resents this country. They're willing to embrace regimes that hate women, Christians, basic freedoms, because they share one thing: a hatred for America. Don't ever apologize for being proud of this country. You have a moral duty to be proud.
You know what's interesting? He appears to be an immigrant. I'm going to guess he's a legal immigrant. And that's the type of American you can be really, really proud of. And that's the type of people that we want here. Someone who loves this place, who understands this place, who doesn't want to come here and fundamentally alter it the way Zohran Mamdani does. It's different. It's different. And we better really start understanding that. Do you think that Welch chick really loves America? Or does she want to burn it down? What do you think the Hamas guy over there wants to do? Or the Batman villain or the rest of them? I mean, they tell you all the time, right? You don't have to believe me. Go see. You know, we always check it every year. Go see what they post on Memorial Day or on Labor Day or on Thanksgiving. And they never post an appreciation for this country. They never step back. Ilhan Omar should wake up every morning and get on her knees and look up at the flag and thank this country for taking her out of Somalia. But instead, she has come here to burn it down. And we are really going to have to grapple with that, because now, and I wish I hadn't predicted this, but I did, the Democrat Party is completely overtaken with these ideas. Yes, I get it. There's the guy with half brain damage who's trying, and there's Bill Maher, but that's it. That's it. And the fight is basically over now. Like, you may think it still exists. Oh my God, but Chuck Schumer is still there with Timo Obama and a couple, but the fight is over. We see what's happening. And in some ways, I guess that's good, because the mask is off, right? Zohran's full mask of becoming the wolf isn't fully off. That'll be when he goes full jihad. But like the mask in and of itself is off. They are socialists, and that, I suppose, will make the fight a little bit easier for us as we get closer to the midterms. Let's do Noble Gold for a second, then we'll have more on the other side. Guys, gold has officially gone mainstream. Whoop, am I doing this live? I am doing it live. You freaked me out over there. Gold has officially gone mainstream. Every day, more and more Americans are discovering the power of gold. But how do you actually take advantage of it and invest in a simple way? That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. Their specialists are trained to help investors like you go from confused to confident, whether you're looking to roll over an old 401k into a gold IRA or want physical coins and bars delivered right to your home. Noble Gold makes the process simple, secure, and stress-free. You'll get step-by-step guidance, transparent pricing, and U.S.-based service from a trusted team that's handled over $2.5 billion in precious metal transactions. With Noble Gold Investments, protecting and growing your wealth isn't just their job, it's their commitment. Visit DaveRubinGold.com to claim your free wealth protection kit. That's DaveRubin.com that's DaveRubinGold.com. Noble Gold, helping you build a stronger future. And let's jump into some Locals.com community Q&A questions. Mitchell says, with what appears to be a near total capture of higher education, ever thought about where the next generation of leaders should be sourced from? That's a good question. I mean, look, I've mentioned this a couple of times. You know, we've had our financial planners ask us about, like, how do we want to, set aside money for college for the kids? And I was immediately like, what college for the kids? They're 3. The chances that they're going to college in any way we understand college now is slim to none. I want to set aside some money so that hopefully, if we've raised them right, maybe they travel for a little bit, but that eventually there's a sit-down conversation, and we're kind of like, well, what do you want to do with your life, and how can we help? But sending them to some leftist organization to be brainwashed to hate the country and hate everything that is good and pay for it at the exact same time, I'm not that interested in doing that. So where will a nation source things from? I think things are changing so fast right now, and that's partly what so much of the tension is about. And with the AI revolution and the robotics revolution, like, the world of tomorrow's leaders is just going to be so absolutely fundamentally different that it's a little hard to say. But I would say that there will be plenty of kids who get a good education at, I don't know, Peterson Academy. There'll be plenty of kids that don't get a formal education at all, but learn a trade and then become good family people who then want to get back in. I mean, if weak men create hard times, and then those hard times create strong men, well, we're going through it right now, and there's going to be a better generation of leaders after this. Like, one way or another, I think we're coming to the close of a certain set of people, certain type of person that's in politics. Johnny says, I'm wondering if we should now annex England. The people are being arrested for speech. Well, look, we've talked a bunch about what's going on in England as it relates to free speech. And I mentioned that when I was there in February for the ARC conference, I was at dinner with about 15, fairly well-known people, many of whom have been on this show, huge free speech advocates and fighters for all the right values. You can probably figure out a few of their names. And we all had a conversation about how we had been not exactly tweeting what we wanted to tweet while we were there, including me, because I was like, I didn't want to get hung up at the airport even. It wasn't that I thought that the police were just going to burst into the restaurant and arrest us, but you just don't know what they can do over there. And we do see people that are anti-illegal immigration being arrested and all sorts of stuff for social media posts. So should we annex England? No, but we should wish them an awful lot of luck. But look, Hungary and Eastern Europe and Central Europe and Poland and some of those countries are going to be just fine because they're taking care of their borders, they're fighting for their culture and blah, blah, blah. Western Europe, I see, how can it get better? I mean, somebody tell me how it can get better. I don't see how it can, right? The people who are reproducing are doing it way faster. Mohammed is the #1 name in England right now, and they're doing more and more and more and more. The natives aren't reproducing. Like, you've let in all these people, you don't have enough men to fight. Like, there's just like a series of things. I just don't see how you could be living in that country and feel that it's safe for your future, unless you want to live on your knees. Larry says, you mock Gavin Newsom for the movement of his hands. I think he's imitating Jordan Peterson. What do you think? Well, Jordan does a little more of this, right? Jordan, it's a lot of this sort of thing. He's always pulling apart ideas and putting them back together. Newsom, it's a lot of, there you go. Look, Newsom, it's this. Whoa, look at that. Whoa, that was a good one. This little shoulder move. I don't know, maybe his brain is shorting out from all the coke. I'm not sure what it is, but it's a lot of this. That was more of like a Trump dancing move. I don't know what the deal is with everything about him. Seems like a construct to me. He seems so deeply inauthentic. I mean, that video we showed you a couple of days ago, the thing he hates most is politicians who lie. Like, the fact that he got up the gall to say that, it's just off the charts with this guy. So the hand motions, we used to, Jordan and I, when we were on stage together, we would have some fun with that because I would kind of do an impression of him doing it, and he would explain. One of the things that he said about his hand motions was that it was a little bit like Doctor Strange from the Marvel movies. He's always doing all this stuff and opening portals to other worlds. Jordan was kind of doing it through people's minds. Crafty Barb says, as of today, a lawsuit was filed in Cali on Prop 50. What are your thoughts? Will it be successful? So I don't know about the lawsuit specifically, but it's obviously to stop Prop 50. But it was voted in by the people. It's a one-party state, so I don't see how they can stop it. They will likely get 4 more seats. There are only, I think it was 9 congressional seats that they have to the Republicans in a state that big, and now it'll probably be 4. I mean, it's just wildly corrupt and out of control. And actually, that's a good connection to where we started with the filibuster and Trump. Newsom is seeing, I have power, I'm going to exercise it, and it will basically calcify my party's rule over this place. Now, I don't like that. But should Trump then try a similar tactic and say, hey, I have power now, I better use it? Like, that's why there's like a real politic version of this, and then there's a philosophical notion. This is sort of why libertarians generally, even though I think they largely have the right set of ideas, why they never get elected and no one really likes them and they never really get anything done. I mean, I like libertarians personally, you know what I mean? And most of us actually are more libertarian than we think we are, just like get out of my life and leave me alone and we'll be fine. But I mean, why do libertarians never get power? Because they love their principles over ever using power. And that's a really good debate to have that we should probably have some guests on to churn through a little bit more. Glenn says, have you ever visited the Pacific Northwest like Washington or Oregon? If you haven't, you might be missing out on some of my opinion best scenery in the U.S. Yes, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law used to live, and my other sister-in-law used to live actually, believe this or not, at a communal farm in Tacoma, Washington, outside of Seattle. They were all wackadoodle leftists, love all ya, and they have now all been red-pilled. That is my life's work. I have red-pilled them. I have moved them all to Florida, where they are successful people here who pay taxes and have the proper genitals attached to their body. It's very exciting, and they're doing great things here in Miami. But they lived on a communal farm, which, like most communal things, was great for about a year and then went to absolute shit. They had a trans person there who I think was trying to kill me once, which is a whole other story. And then, in a sad note, they had this incredible chicken coop. They had like 40 chickens in there, and then literally a fox got in the hen house. And my brother-in-law walked in one day, just a slaughterhouse of dead chickens everywhere. Should we keep doing the show or what? Let's talk about Tax Network USA and then a couple more questions. Do you owe back taxes? Did you forget to file for an extension? If you haven't gathered your documents or made estimated payments, the IRS could soon come after you. And when they do, they can garnish your wages, freeze your bank accounts, or even seize your property. But there's help. Tax Network USA, a nationwide tax firm, has already helped taxpayers save over $1 billion in tax debt. They filed hundreds of thousands of returns and assisted thousands of people in reducing what they owe, and they can help you too. Don't wait. Visit tnusa.com/Dave or call 1-800-958-1000 for a completely free consultation. In just one short call, the experts at Tax Network USA will walk you through a few simple questions to see how much you can save. Take action now before it's too late. That's tnusa.com/Dave or call 1-800-958-1000. All right, a couple more questions. Tappy says, how is Jordan Peterson? I've been watching his daughter's podcast when I can, but have you spoken to him? Is he getting better? So I don't want to say anything that Michaela, his daughter, hasn't said publicly. I've had some communication with her. You know, he basically, what happened was that his parents passed away. He went to the home, as I understand it, the home that he grew up in, that they've lived in for, 50 plus years, and they were cleaning it out. And he got some sort of mold poisoning, which is a real thing. Trust me, I live in Florida. We actually just had our whole house remediated for mold because, it gets in the AC units, and people can have all sorts of things. It can create neurological problems and fatigue, and it can do weird things to your hormones, like a series of things. It sounds like one of those like fluffy things, like, oh, I got mold poisoning, but it actually is real. And it sounds like he was having some serious neurological problems. I don't want to say more than maybe Michaela has said, so I would recommend just checking out her channel and seeing maybe what her last video was on that. From what I understand, he is getting better. He will be back. He will get better. I tell you, Jordan Peterson is a fighter. Joe says, your prediction was correct. The LA Dodgers won another World Series and are officially a dynasty. Any thoughts? I did predict the Dodgers. Very happy about that. Connor here is a huge Dodgers fan, and I'm not a huge baseball fan anymore. Like, I just, time goes by, you just changing things, and I'm mostly a basketball guy now, and I don't even watch that much professional basketball. I don't think I could name 10 NBA players. There's Wamba Tombo, or Timby Wambo, or whatever his name is, the tall guy on Spurs. But I was rooting for the Dodgers in honor of Connor. Do you have anything of the Dodgers you'd like to say or show, or is there anything? We're happy for the Dodgers. There we go. Look, oh, this is interesting. World Series champs since 2000. Yeah, they've won 3 out of the last 6, basically. Yeah, that's pretty close to dynasty level stuff. And who's on the Dodgers now? They got, and I asked you about Tommy Lasorda. He's off. Who do they got? Shohei Ohtani. Two-way player. Oh, he goes both ways? Yep. Interesting. How's he at baseball? Shepard says, aside from a bottle of Copal, do you have any thoughts on what would make a good Christmas gift in 2025? Well, I do highly recommend award-winning Copal for the family for Thanksgiving or Christmas. What else would be good? I never ask for anything. I don't want anything I really don't want anything from anyone. But what would be a good gift for other people? What do people like? Like, I don't know, get somebody a nice, to me, if someone was getting me a gift, like you bring me a nice steak that I can cook for you, I'll be very happy. People like that, what's that cup, that Stanley cup, that people just love that cup. You guys all have that, people just love it. We used to just have a cup back in the day. You people all have to have a cup. It has to say Stanley on it, and you could hit somebody with it. I guess that would be something. I don't know, what else? You know what, the clothes that I'm actually really into right now, there's this brand Viori. I think it's Vouri, and it's sort of like a nicer version of Lululemon. But it's also more. They have the workout stuff, but especially because in Miami where it's hot and humid all the time. Oh, you're giving me a good idea. It's extremely light and it fits right, and it encourages you actually to just get in better shape because it kind of, the way it falls on you, you kind of want to be a little more in shape. But actually, Joseph just gave me a great idea, and I fully am on board this. You want to give someone a great gift that will actually help them in life. This is not a sponsored thing in any way. Aura ring, O-U-R-A, the Aura ring, which I keep on. I now use this as my wedding ring, and the reason it's on my left hand is because I play basketball as a righty, and I didn't want to switch it all the time. So I keep my now wedding ring on my left hand. But it tracks your sleep, it tracks your body temperature, it tracks your calories burned, your steps, all of those things. And for me, it's been an unbelievably great way of just paying a little more attention to that stuff. And I'm at my lowest weight in I think 18 years or something. And it starts becoming a game. Actually, they call it a circle. So the guys here all have it basically. And you can get in a circle with your friends, and then you can sort of all watch each other and see how much someone else did that day. You don't have to do it if you want to keep it all private. But you can then track and compete with each other and all of those things. It's really cool. For example, last night, I played basketball as I do on Wednesdays. We started 6, I finished up about 8:30, did not stop once in the entire time, played many games. And it's Florida, heat, again, humid, all that stuff. and I burned something like 2,100 calories in 2.5 hours playing. And it's just cool that you can kind of see that and track it. Anyway, so that's a good one. Nimbus says, we love Nimbus. Nimbus says, what do you see happening on the left as this socialist capture deepens, especially since the economic abundance and productivity required to sustain such a socialist utopia would ironically have to be achieved through capitalist enterprise like AI? It's a great question. Well, it also shows you a little bit of, I don't want to say this is a flaw of capitalism, but this is a catch-22 of freedom. What do we do in free capitalist societies? We let everybody in on the game, right? We let the people who would love to destroy the game in on the game. It's like, remember playing Monopoly when you were a kid and there was always one friend or cousin who would play for a little bit, and the second it wasn't going their way, you know, they landed on Park Avenue with the hotel, they just flip the board and smash you with the chips and all of that stuff and rip up the money and burn down the house and all that. That's kind of what the socialists are right now. But the rest of us, we play by the rules, and then we just set it all up again, and we'll fix it again, and then they'll burn it down again and everything else. So yes, capitalism and freedom does allow for bad actors and bad ideas to leak in, and then they end. The weird thing is they need capitalism to fund their socialist utopia, right? Like that's the thing, and that's also the particularly weird thing that is happening right now. Why is it Mamdani doesn't care that let's say 700,000 to 1 million people are going to leave? Why does he not care about that? Why does he not look and go, boy, you know, we're going to need all this tax money for all this free shit. Maybe we shouldn't also increase the business tax rates, the corporate tax rates, because that's also going to drive people and corporations out, and I'm going to need that money. Because I would argue the intention actually is to destroy the system. The free shit is just the temporary move to destroy the system, because once the system is destroyed, who will you need? Well, he will argue you will need us. I don't think you need them. Guys, we got a great panel show for you tomorrow. Alex Stein and Michael Mallett. It is going to be a wacky, wacky program. I thank you for watching. We've got a post-game show coming up in 30 seconds. RubinReport.locals.com. We'll see you tomorrow. Adios.
Depends on what the community wants.
There she is for you.
Ilhan Omar is garbage.
You say Minnesota, I say Somalia.
Daman Shabka, Somalia Kunul.
He said, you're illegal, you gotta go.
When the people decide enough is enough.
Whoopi, stop smoking your hair. You live in the greatest country. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It's December 4th, 2025. We almost just opened with something hilarious, but we're going to boot that for now. As usual, we are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and Locals. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell. RubinReport.locals.com post-game show after the show. And the second half of today's show will be a community Q&A. So if you want to get your questions in while we are live on the internet, you can do that by downloading the Locals app, joining the Rubin Report community. It's absolutely free. We have an app on the iPhone there. I just got the big one. Got the big phone. Finding it a little glitchy. Where's Steve Jobs when you need him? We also have an Android app, all that good stuff. And we're going to catch up on some of the news, mostly focused on what we've really, I mean, it's sort of what we're always focused on here, but what we've really focused in on this week, just sort of the disconnect between the mainstream media and reality. So let's just dive right in. There's a big media summit happening right now via the New York Times. And obviously, I am no big fan of the New York Times. I think in most respects, it is kind of the epicenter of misinformation and disinformation and malinformation and all of those things. But they've got this guy, Andrew Sorkin, over there, who I actually don't think is terrible. And he's moderating a whole bunch of discussions. And he had Scott Besson on yesterday, and they got into the legitimacy of the once credible newspaper.
The question is, how should is this is like a new? Is this a new normal?
That Andrew, there's no new normal, and I can tell you that I actually don't read the New York Times anymore. But sometimes I do watch CNBC, but occasionally people send me articles, and there's just this fever swamp, and you're now a pop historian with 1929, and in 20, 30, 40, 50 years. The New York Times is no longer the paper of record. You can't go, I read this article, President Trump is slowing down, President Trump's mental capacity. It is 100% fake. That, he only called me twice at 2 a.m. last week, instead of 3 times.
You're saying he called you? I believe that he called you at 2.
Okay, so first off, I just love the fact that Besson goes to a New York Times conference, and there's value in these people still showing up at these things. There's always the debate, do you talk to these guys? Do you ignore them? All that. Okay, fine. They're having a big conference. You go and you sit there and you literally say, I don't even read your paper anymore. And we can go through, you guys know the endless list of lies that the New York Times has put out there. As a matter of fact, well, look at what we have here. As you guys know, I keep this on the wall in the studio. It's a little heavy, but it's one of my proudest moments. This is, what was the date on this bad boy again? This was June 6th, 2019, front page cover story on the New York Times about how YouTube, we got a little glare there, about how YouTube algorithms were forcing people to become alt-right, making of a YouTube radical algorithms of the alt-right. And yeah, pre-beard Dave Rubin, he was a real radical, turning people into white supremacists. I now have this up here as a badge of honor. I mean, they lie about literally everything. Very fine people on both sides, Russia, all of the COVID lies, the censorship, all of it. One of the things that they also covered up quite extensively was Joe Biden's mental acuity. However, listen to this from about a week ago in the New York Times, November 25th to be precise. Shorter days, signs of fatigue. Trump faces realities of aging in office. Still, nearly a year into his second term, Americans see Mr. Trump less than they used to, according to a New York Times analysis of his schedule. Mr. Trump has fewer public events on his schedule and is traveling domestically much less than he did at this point during his first year in office in 2017, although he is taking more foreign trips. Mr. Trump has long rambled in his speeches during his 2024 campaign, and in his second term, the meandering has often been noticeable. I mean, fuck you, New York Times. Just go fuck yourself. You're a bunch of fucking fucktards. That'll be it for the F-bombs for today. It's so inexcusable. It's so boring. It's actually boring that you do this nonsense. You ran cover for a man that we know was completely incapacitated. Even before he took office, I was doing videos about his mental condition, okay? It was a massive cover-up. We have no idea if he knew what the auto pen was even doing, if he was in meetings. There's all sorts of evidence that they were, many people have talked about this. Mike Johnson specifically has talked about how they were literally hiding him to make sure he wasn't going into meetings. We know about the note cards he had and everything else, and you guys ran cover for that for years. And now you're pretending that Donald Trump, who has been bouncing all over the world, doing incredible things, you're pretending that he is slowing down, and that's a problem. Now, is it possible, I'm going to give the devil his due, I don't know why I keep doing this, is it possible he has slowed down just a bit at what is he, 79 years old? That actually is possible. And can you make an argument that generally speaking, we should try to have presidents that are maybe more so in their 50s and 60s, somebody that's had a kind of nice career, raised a family, and in a slightly different part of life, but still has a little more youth and vigor? There's an argument for that. Does Trump buck the trend of what an average 79-year-old behaves like and all of those things? He absolutely does. Endless energy. But the guy's bouncing all over the world. I can tell you that when we did a 2-week trip to Australia, I was jet lagged for about 7, 8 days afterwards. This guy's bouncing all over the world, relentlessly taking meetings, and they have the nerve and the gall to do that. It is completely absurd, but okay, you get that. Let's continue. Scott Bessent then called out the complete cover-up that the New York Times was part of as it pertained to Joe Biden.
You had what was one of the greatest scandals of all time, that the coverage of the Biden administration, Joe Biden's diminished capacity, and the cover-up.
And that's why it's probably fair to raise these questions.
Where was the New York Times? We just had a 3-hour cabinet meeting yesterday, Andrew. For 10 months, the Biden administration did not have a cabinet meeting. How are you going to invoke the 25th Amendment if the cabinet secretaries never see the president, which they didn't? That, I hear from people in the Treasury building that I see President Trump more in a day than my predecessor saw Joe Biden in half a year. So,
it's interesting. I just gave Sorkin credit. I don't think he's not profoundly terrible. And if you wanted to have a conversation with me on either of our podcasts, that would be just fine. But it's interesting. Bessent's you guys were part of this massive cover-up around Biden's mental health. And then he goes, well, that's why we should be talking about this. And it's no, that's not the issue. First off, there isn't an issue related to Trump, but that's secondary. The issue is you guys, you're sort of acknowledging that you lied and ran cover for Biden. Well, because we covered up all of that stuff related to that old guy and his diminished mental capacity. Now we should be focusing on it. Oh, and it happens to be right now in office a guy you don't like. So it's just boring as hell. But here's more proof from the New York Times. In November of 2021, Biden declared healthy and vigorous after his first presidential physical. Think how profoundly absurd that is. At any point, do you think Biden was vigorous in those 4 years? Let's say you maybe could argue that he was healthy. Maybe they didn't have, maybe, and I do think there still was a massive cover-up. But is it possible that in that first year, that maybe some of the mental stuff and the diminished ability to speak and all those things, maybe that wasn't coming through? But would you describe him as vigorous in any point? Come on, it's completely absurd. But why do they do it? Well, they do it because they know they can get away with it. So the Democrats and the machine lie about things, and then they have the mainstream media launder the lies to the people. Here you go.
There's a growing and insidious trend in right-wing media, broadcast, print, and social media. It is to take highly misleading and selectively edited videos of President Biden directly from Republican National Committee social media accounts. Both the articles are based on cheap fakes, videos of real events that are intentionally manipulated to fool viewers, released on an RNC opposition research social media account with zero independent fact-checking by these so-called journalists and spread throughout the right-wing ecosystem.
Cheap fakes are a little bit simpler. They're cheap. They're just distorted, out of context videos, chopped up in certain ways, constructed in certain ways. That's what we're seeing. That's what the Biden administration, the Biden campaign is so worried about right now. But make no mistake, they are worried about this. This is a real problem. This is not some made-up fiction. The videos are oftentimes made up, but the problem is real.
Okay, so you may be watching this going, Dave, we've seen all this stuff. Why are we diving back into this? But I think it's starting to become clear regarding what one of their next moves is going to be. And one of their next moves is going to be an endless focusing on Trump's health. They are going to do this. And in a weird way, they're doing it because it's the perfect obfuscation for everything that they did for those 4 years. So when we had a real problem in the White House with an old man who was confused and tired and often not at meetings and not signing documents and everything else, they ran cover for it and they called it cheap fakes and everything else. Even though in that video that was on the side-by-side of Stelter right there, that apparently was the night that George Clooney now has admitted that he saw Joe Biden and Joe Biden wasn't even sure who he was, even though he's one of his biggest backers and fundraisers and everything else. So that's what they did for Biden. And now they're going to do the reverse. They hit it for Biden and they're going to do the reverse for Trump, despite the fact that he is bouncing all over the world, as Besson pointed out, was just in a 3-hour cabinet meeting yesterday, which, by the way, where he then takes questions. How many times on this show, just in the last 2 weeks, have we shown you moments where he's on the plane He doesn't have to be taking questions on on Air Force One. He could be laying in bed. I am sure they've got a pretty nice suite, and he's got a button with Diet Coke, and he don't have to talk to anybody, but he does it. So I'm just putting that out there to just acknowledge, let's pre-acknowledge what they are going to do. Let's pre-bunk it. How about that? Let's go back to Bessent with Sorkin, and they get into a bit about affordability. And again, Sorkin really tries his best to blame everything on Trump, but Bessent actually has facts.
Worse, in a blue state, affordability is worse than a blue state.
We can debate that, but keep going.
No, there's no debate. The number 50 basis points higher inflation, the 10 highest inflation rates they are in blue cities, but
just so you know, because I went to look at this, this is the Joint Economic Committee, since 2021. The highest inflation of the past 4 years has been in red states, especially Florida.
I'm talking about current.
Current. Not over the past 4 years.
Right. Today.
Okay. I would think 4 years would be a reasonable trend line to look at.
Today it is 50 basis points higher.
Sorkin, do you get why they laughed at you right there? Trump has been president for 10 months. Who was president for those 4 years? It was Joe Biden. It was the Democrats. It was you guys. So if you're concerned about inflation, it might have something to do with the endless printing of money. It might have something to do with the Inflation Reduction Act that actually raised inflation and everything else. So it's just like, so Bessent is just like, I'm talking about now, buddy. Now. But what happens is, and this is really the point, the bias of these people, the implicit and I would say illicit bias of these people, knowing that they have a buffer, that basically if you are on the left in America, you can lie about anything. What that allows you to do is not just import bad ideas, but you never have to take accountability for your bad ideas. So speaking of accountability for bad ideas, here is the king of bad ideas, Gavin Newsom, and listen to this psychotic, we have been through this before, same script, get a new one, brother, psychotic rant related to our elections going forward, because we haven't done this before.
I believe this in my core of my heart. You will not have a free and fair election as we know them today in the United States of America if Speaker Jeffries is not sworn in a year plus from now. I really believe that. Sure, there'll be elections. Competitive authoritarians love elections. Putin, I think, got 87.3%. The runner-up was 4.3%. That's what I mean by competitive authoritarianism. Ask folks in Hungary and Orban what's going on in Turkey. That's the model for Trump. Went from the sixth largest economy to the fourth largest economy, $4.1 trillion a year. We have more Fortune 500 companies than we've ever had in the last 2 decades. More scientists, engineers, more Nobel laureates, venture capital, over $106 billion this year. Finest system of higher education in the world, a conveyor belt for talent like no other. The dominant manufacturing hub in the United States. We're the dominant ag state, $62.1 billion, forestry, hunting jobs, ag jobs. You talk about farmers and ranchers, you're talking about my home state.
There's just so much nonsense there that it's hard to, I'm not going to even bother unpacking all of the lies and confusions and all of that stuff. What I'd like to focus on for a moment is, can you pull up the picture of how he was sitting? How does an adult male sit like that? Now this, I think, offers us a little insight into my theory that he is an evil lizard man. Do lizards have testicles? Do lizards have testicles? I don't think lizards have testicles. How do lizards there's an egg, and I don't think lizards have balls. Because if you had balls, you could not sit like that. Let's put it up again. His balls obviously do not exist because he is a lizard. Now, interestingly, can you put up the picture earlier of Sorkin? Because Sorkin was kind of sitting like that earlier. Look, Bessent is sitting, there's always this debate online. Trump sits sort of like a gorilla, right? Like man spreading giant thighs, like this, right? Like they're like this, like a giant vagina, right? That's what they are. And then there's always this debate. If you're a man and you sit with your legs crossed, you're not really a man. But Bessent is sitting. I sit like that sometimes. It's a normal way to have your legs crossed. I don't know how Sorkin is doing that. And then I'll go back to Gavin Newsom. No, you cannot have testicles. You cannot have testicles. Were you just giving me some lizard testicle information? Yeah, it's confirmed. Lizards do not have testicles. Well, they have testicles. Lizards do not have balls. Their testes are internal. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. As for the nonsense, like this fear about we're never going to have elections again and everything else, and then he brings Orban into it. You know, I've been to Hungary several times now, and it is clean and safe, and they have controlled their borders. And in some sense, if America could be more like Hungary, we'd be in a much better situation. So it's just like you lie about everything. By the way, he's telling you, he's fear-mongering about elections while he's gerrymandering the high hell out of his supermajority Democrat state. It's just absolutely extraordinary. Also, 11 Fortune 500 companies have left California since COVID. We know that Elon took several companies out of there. California ranks 37th out of 50th in state public education. Like, it goes on and on. Oh, and what was it? He said, we have the best pipeline of higher education in the world. It's like, oh yes, send your kid to Columbia and to Yale and Harvard so that they can become a Hamas member. Like, I'm not going to curse again. It's fine. You may remember that he did debate Ron DeSantis about 2 years ago, and I just thought this was a great moment to re-up this because his own freaking parents, Gavin Newsom's own in-laws, fled California because of him and now live in the free state of Florida.
So I was talking to a fella who had made the move from California to Florida, and he was telling me that Florida is much better governed, safer, better budget, lower taxes, all this stuff. And he's really happy with the quality of life. And then he paused and he said, oh, by the way, I'm Gavin Newsom's father-in-law. So we do count Gavin's in-laws as some of the people that have fled California and come to the state of Florida. And why are we getting people to come? We have a 50-year low in the crime rate. You don't see in the last 10 years, we've had a 45% decline in homelessness. California's had a 45% increase in homelessness. We back the blue. I was walking the streets of San Francisco a couple months ago, and I had some of the cops in San Francisco do a beeline to come over to me, and I didn't know what they were going to say. And they're like, we want to thank you for standing for law enforcement because we don't get that support in the state of California.
We don't even deserve that guy, even here in Florida, and we'll see what happens when his term wraps up, and hopefully it will be a replication of what he has done here. But yeah, Newsom just stands there with his evil smile and his no testicles, knowing that everything that DeSantis said there was true. And it's like, man, this guy, I'm warning you guys, like, he likely will be the candidate in 28 because he will have the veneer, literally the veneer teeth, but he will have the veneer and fake hair and patina of somehow being something somewhat moderate, as opposed to them going full mask off and bringing in a Mamdani type. But he will usher in all of the absolute evil. But again, how do these people get away with it? How is it that they can ruin cities as he ruined San Francisco, and then ruin states as he ruined California, and they can do this all over the country and then keep winning elections and keep getting away with it? Well, the way they do that is because, as I said earlier, their lies are then laundered throughout the media. So Rachel Maddow, a woman who gets paid $25 million to do a one-day-a-week show, as far as I understand it, over on the televised mental institution now known as MS Now. She went on failed comedian who makes $20 million a year, Stephen Colbert, whose show is about to be canceled with his $100 million budget. Poor guy, what's he going to do with the rest of his life? He'll have to walk around Times Square begging for change. But she went on his show last night to explain that Trump is, well, yeah, colluding with Russia. Again, does anyone have a memory anymore? This is endless scrolling has just broke all our brains. It's funny. I'll start with the last part. Solving the intractable problems through guys like Steve Witkoff. Yeah, he got the hostages out of Gaza and there is peace right now, right? It's not, as I always say, it's not Pollyannish peace like they all love each other, but the killing is over. The reconstruction has begun. Right? So that guy did it. You would prefer that people who got us into intractable problems over decades were still the ones in charge. Trump tries different things and gets different results. You could argue that in his first go-round, the Abraham Accords, instead of doing everything the conventional way, he brought in Kushner and some other people, and they thought about things a little bit differently and got things done. So she's actually an agent of whatever you want to think of as the deep state. She is an agent of it. She thinks, oh, there's all these problems and we should solve all these problems via the same mechanisms and people as created the problems in the first place. Trump is the reverse of that. He sees problems and is like, can we think about them in a different way? And can we try to solve them via other means? And then he does solve it. And that upsets the people who are entrenched in the deep state. Again, whatever you want to refer to that, the machine, the deep state, whatever you want to call that. Also, Maddow, she lied. It's a complete lie. The first thing she said there was Russia wrote the plan for what they want Ukraine to do. What she's referring to, he or she, whatever she is, what she's referring to there is the 19-point plan that we have now brought over to the Russians and see if they will get on board, right? And it's like there is literally, yes, Russia wrote it. Russia wrote it. There's no evidence of that. She completely made it up, but that is what she is an expert in, completely making up nonsense, but sounding like she knows what she's talking about. Here's Exhibit 32A. Go.
Now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. NBC News is reporting tonight that with this sort of October surprise that he has brought to the fore about Joe Biden and Mr. Biden's son, that is now being investigated by federal investigators as a foreign intelligence operation for which her father would be the conduit. Third election in a row in which Russia has tried to interfere to try to get Trump into the White House.
Third election in a row. Everything she says, abject lie. I love she brought on Rudy Giuliani's daughter. You know, Rudy's coming to the holiday party, the Rubin Report holiday party. That's going to be pretty fun. You ever see Rudy Giuliani doing a shot at tequila? You will soon enough. We'll see if we can get that on video. Anyway, it's just like they lie about everything. And then what happens? The misinformation that they purvey while they tell us we're purveying misinformation, it actually harms the country. It harms the good ideas like capitalism. It harms the ability for people to build businesses and everything else because they end up living in cities that are run by complete morons. And then it also destroys the institutions. And whether you love our institutions or not, a functioning society needs some institutions. You need some relatively trustworthy institutions that you can believe in. Otherwise, everything will crumble overnight. Alex Karp, who's the head of Palantir, I love showing you videos of this guy. I think he's just great. We've got to get him on the show. I think he's just great. Here he is talking about how no one believes in the institutions anymore, and that actually is a problem.
What is the biggest problem in this culture? I'll tell you the biggest problem. No one believes the institutions are credible. And why don't they believe they're? And I struggle to believe they're credible too, because these business leaders make completely stupid decisions. And they get bailed out. A year later, they're getting huge bonuses. And what do the American people get? Nothing. And that's a huge problem. Like, if you make, so I think the real version is, I made a lot of decisions when we began talking, annoying each other 10 years ago. Hopefully I'm annoying you as much as 10 years ago, or more. When I made you know this, every decision Palantir made, FDAs, going public, building products, enterprise, large data sets, going to government, acknowledging American superiority, being pro-meritocracy, launching an AI platform, calling into question that AI models would actually be able to perform without orchestration. Every single one, our ontology, every single one of those was viewed as stupid. You know what I actually have grown to appreciate about capitalism? All the people who made the right decisions went broke, are going out of business.
So what does that show you guys? So the institutions lied to us. But he's making the argument it would be nice if we had trustworthy institutions, but also conventional wisdom just doesn't work. When Rachel Maddow, it's like clear thinking works, but conventional wisdom doesn't, right? That's what we're, I think, getting to at this point. That Rachel in the previous clip is like, conventional wisdom should always do everything. Everyone that got us into intractable problems should have to solve those intractable problems. And what he's saying there is the institutions have failed. We have tried to build new things. He's talking about Palantir specifically and the roadmap that they did to go public and everything else. We thought about all things differently. And because we did, we've built a good product and good AI models and everything else. And it's like, you can even tell just by the body language. You have a lizard with no testicles sitting there just lying about everything versus a guy that, like, he is passionate and telling you true things, and you can see it actually exudes out of his body. Speaking of out of the body, let's talk about boner pills for a minute, and then we'll talk about Ilhan Omar. Blue Chew is basically the upgrade button for your sex life. These chewable tablets are designed to deliver stronger, harder, and longer-lasting erections without the hoops. No waiting rooms, no pharmacy lines, and no awkward doctor visits. Just a quick online consultation, and once you're approved by a licensed medical professional, Blue Chew sends your tablets straight to your door in discreet packaging. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to you. The best part, it's all done online. That means no hassle, no embarrassment, just a smarter, simpler way to handle things. Great sex is just a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com and make life easier by getting harder. Discover your options today at BlueChew.com. Simple as that. And we've got a special offer for our listeners. Try the first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code Rubin and just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code Rubin. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. Okay, so there's a whole bunch going on that we've covered over the last few days coming out of Minnesota. Some of it has to do with illegal immigration. Some of it has to do with some of the ICE stuff. A whole bunch of it has to do with fraud, which is actually connected to a lot of that, and money laundering and much more. But it also is now turning out, and Tim Walz is sort of in the center of this thing, that there have been all sorts of governmental programs that Minnesota was doing that were unbelievably fraudulent, that again became money laundering schemes, that put money in people's pockets instead of going to the people. And Ilhan Omar was asked about it on CNN, and will you tell me if this is a legitimate answer or not?
Can you shed any light on why the fraud got so out of control in Minnesota?
I think what happened is that, you know, when you have these kind of new programs that are designed to help people, you're oftentimes relying on third parties to be able to facilitate. And I just think that a lot of the COVID programs that were set up, they were set up so quickly that a lot of the guardrails did not get created.
Oh, well, then maybe somebody should be fired. Maybe you, because you're the congresswoman of that area and you were working with third parties and didn't vet them properly as you were taking money from the American people, maybe you gotta go home. I don't even mean back to Somalia, but maybe you just got to go back to your house and find something else to do. But again, this is because, see, it's the same thing as the Maddow thing. Maddow saying there's intractable problems in the world. We should just think about them the exact same way. And that is the great escape plan for all of these people. It's the same thing that Ilhan is doing. Well, you know, when things are happening, you know, there are crazy things like COVID and you just have to do things real fast and then wacky things happen and no one has to, you know, pay the price for that. It's the same exact notion. They believe in something that is deeply, deeply broken and the blame never gets put at anyone's doorstep because that's baked into the whole freaking thing in the first place. But it wasn't always that way and it doesn't always have to be that way. I love this quote from Ronald Reagan. We must reject the idea that every time a law is broken, society is guilty rather than the lawbreaker. It is time to restore the American precept that each individual is accountable for his actions. So not only, of course, is he right that each individual is accountable for his actions, but this is what they are pushing on us. Can you pull it up one more time? I want to read the first part of that again. We must reject the idea that every time a law is broken, society is guilty rather than the lawbreaker. Now, frame that around what she just said. She was just like, well, she didn't say society exactly, but she was like, well, you know, it was COVID and it was a weird time and we had to work with third-party people. Like, no one is to blame, right? No, so you guys can launder money. You can do all sorts of illegal, shady things, but the buck doesn't stop with anyone, right? It continues with Ilhan Omar. You're not, this one, you're not, everyone get in your chair. Here, I should adjust myself in my chair and you guys should also adjust yourselves. This is crazy. This is seriously crazy. She just went on TV yesterday and I just don't want anyone to fall out of their chair or maybe if you're drinking coffee or anything, I don't want you to have a spit take and ruin your couch. She went on TV and she called Trump racist yesterday.
He's always been a racist, a bigot, a xenophobic, and Islamophobic. We know that he called African nations a shithole in his first administration. We know that when he came down that escalator, he said he was going to stop Muslim immigration into this country. And so it is not surprising that he is going after black immigrants in this country. And it's certainly not surprising that he's choosing a black immigrant community that is also Muslim. But what I would like to say is that most of us are citizens. On our passport, it says we are nationals of this country. We love that Minnesota has welcomed us. Many of us have not been settled in Minnesota. We chose it as a home because the Minnesota people and the state is beautiful and very welcoming. And we are going to be here regardless of what the president has to say.
There's such evil, like with her, she's smiling the entire time as she's calling the president racist and xenophobic. She also said most of us, what was it, most of us are here legally? Most of us? Okay, so you mean 52%? That's still an awful lot of illegals. Also, Donald Trump is not running around just looking for black and Muslim people. He's looking for illegal people. And also, actually, the government of the United States is now looking for people who broke the law as it relates to this money laundering scheme, including the Attorney General over there, Keith Ellison, who is on tape admitting that he knew about it. Like, it's just so profoundly ridiculous. But fortunately, I don't think most people are buying it. And in some sense, I think that's why she's smiling through it. She knows she's lying, but it's all she's got at this point. Oh, and yes, she married her brother and broke federal immigration law. Could we just send that to somebody? Does anyone care about anything? Let's jump over to the ladies of The View. Here is Whoopi Goldberg, a man who... Here's Whoopi Goldberg and Joyless Behar. And of course, they're also implying that Trump is racist and he uses racism whenever his numbers go down.
Will trying to demonize immigrants still work for him or his base? Are they more